All right, today we're going to show you how to upgrade your shop vac. Now this design has been out for several years. There's a few videos on YouTube very similar, but basically what we're doing is we're taking PVC to create a frame that we're going to attach to a wooden top that I'm going to store all of my accessories and my bucket with my Cyclone. So join me today as I walk through the process. All right, now that we've got everything pulled apart, we'll kind of explain how we built this thing. So I started with 2-inch couplers. These couplers actually fit perfect in the wheel well of your shop vac. These are meant for your accessories, but the 2-inch couplers, they sit fantastic, get you a snug fit. So we started there. We added some 2-inch pipe, and I only cut a section about 3 inches each. And then we went kind of into our reducers. So we did 2.5-inch to 1.5-inch reducer. And the reason for that is you can't go 2-inch all the way up or you'll be hitting the sides of the shop vac. So you're gonna have to reduce it to 1.5 to give you some clearance all the way around. So from top to bottom, I'm setting about 36 inches. And for me, there's two different things. I want to be able to grab the accessories about this size, but also I wanted to give the bucket plenty of clearance over the fan, because as you guys know, this is gonna blow out a lot of hot air. Now, I don't think it's gonna melt or deform the bucket, but I wanted to make sure it had plenty of room for the air to dissipate. So I went up the first leg. Actually, let me back up. I built the whole thing with about 36 inches of the 1.5-inch PVC. I got it together, and then to me, it just didn't seem very rigid. I was able to kind of tweak it back and forth, and I wasn't a big fan of that. So I wanted to add some more support. So there's a couple pros and cons of the support. One, it really is tight. You can roll this thing around, you can beat it up. It's not gonna move, it's pretty tight. However, it's not a lot of room when you actually wanna get the top of your vacuum off. So, you know, you wanna pull it off to check the vacuum, make sure your filter's not clogged. Obviously with the bucket, it's gonna help reduce that time, but just keep that in mind if you wanna go higher than I did. So I went up about 15 inches and then added these sweeping T brackets or connectors. So I went up 15 inches, I added the sweeping T, and then added 11-inch pipe on both the sides. And then I went up another 2 inches and then added another two sweeping Ts, one on each side, and then a back support piece, and up about 11 inches. So those really kind of give us some stability, some rigidness that I wanted. So I'm pretty rough in the shop, and my kids are rough in the shop. This thing is rolled everywhere. Every project I have, I mean, I absolutely love how to shop vac. I think it's probably one of the best things you should get, especially starting out, because you will use this every day or every project, however you look at it. So I absolutely love having this to shop, and I really wanted to make it better. So let's get this thing down and we'll talk about the next steps. So once we get the base done, then it's time to attach the top. So I got really fortunate on the top. I had this, it's almost like a coffee table top. It used to be an old retail display. I've had in the shop for years. I've never used it for anything. So I didn't have to cut this really cool, smooth circle. You guys may have to do that, or whatever shape you're gonna use, a square, rectangle, octagon, I don't know. But I like the circle. It gives me plenty of room for all the accessories. So I already had that base. So to attach it, I had to cut my 4 holes. So I just turned it upside down and I mocked it, and then we can attach it. Now to attach it, I use these really cool 1.5-inch screw top connectors. So the top of the PVC has the screw top, and then the cap will go on the top side of the top. What I had to do, I had to cut a chamfer all the way around the ends, and that was to give enough space for the threads to catch, because if you just set it on there, you couldn't actually get it to catch and turn. So I had to add the chamfer, and it gives it plenty of room to screw down. Now I know I've seen a lot of people that they use the cap and they would just screw it from the top, but I didn't want to have to use tools. I wanted everything to be able to adjust by your hand. And honestly, I just kind of think it looks cool. So we get that on. And then the next step is we've got to find a way to attach our bucket, right? So most 5-gallon buckets at the top, right below the, let's call it the bottom lip, is 11 1/4. So I cut a hole in the middle, 11 1/4, and I chamfered the edge as well, just to make it easy to kind of drop the bucket in. But once you drop that bucket in, it should fit nice and nice and tight. So you could go a little bit bigger or do a little more sanding if you want your bucket looser. I didn't. I wanted it pretty snug for a couple reasons. I didn't want to, you know, kind of jostling all over the place making sound. But another reason is to screw the top of the Cyclone on and off. So I'll talk more about that here in a minute. But once you get that in, then you can kind of mock up your places for all your accessories. Everybody has different accessories. I've got several ones that I do use, and I mocked it up from kind of most frequently used to things that I don't really use that much, to the back or the sides. So to cut these holes, really pretty fortunate. There's only 2 size holes, so a typical hole saw jig will work for this. I had a 2.5-inch hole saw and then a 1 3/4. And this will fit kind of your standard, you know, vacuum connectors. They'll just drop right in there. They won't fall all the way through. So that is an example of your 2.5, and this is, you know, 1 3/4. So kind of find your holes, mock it up, cut those in. The only kind of exception to that rule is going to be this, I guess, a spade bit. I'm not sure what you would call it, but you know, it's that long and skinny accessory you'll use to get underneath your, you know, your seats in your car, or maybe your miter saw, whatever that may be. So I did have to cut out a hole with the jigsaw, just enough for it to slide down, but then catch at the top. So we've got our holes in. We've got all of our accessories that can go in. I even added 2 extra holes in the back. I've got some extra length vacuum hose of a smaller diameter, so it kind of reduces down. So I'll set that back in here. Really, when I'm trying to get under small things, the miter saw is a really good example of that. So it kind of lives in the back. But let's talk about the bucket. So there's lots of different Cyclone or bucket tops that you can use from several different brands. I love Cyclones. I think they just look super cool. So I found this Bauer Cyclone on sale at Harbor Freight. So I started with it. I do like the bright red. Doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with the orange of the rigid vacuum, but that's quite all right. So I got that, and then I wanted to find something to match. Same thing with a bucket. There's so many different colored buckets out there. I found this pickle bucket at Firehouse Subs, pretty close to color in red. One, I eat there a lot, and then 2, you know, a portion of the sales go to one of their firefighter foundations, which I think is pretty rad. But on the bucket itself, once it's in there, I want it to be snug, so I could do this. I can just spin this right off when I need to empty my bucket. So in order to accomplish that, I used a Gamma Seal lid. So in the Bauer kit, it does come with the lid for your bucket, but it's one of those kind of like snap lids. So I started using the Gamma Seal lid for a couple different projects. One being my dust collector. You may see it in the background, but I used 2 of those. One to attach my filter to the very top, and then to attach a bucket to the bottom of that air filter, maybe to catch whatever debris that passes it. But that's super easy. I can just unscrew it. I can dump the bucket out. I can clean the filter off. So I wanted that same concept here. And like you just saw, I'm able to unspin this and take it off. However, you're going to have to get creative when you install this. So the lid that comes with the Bauer Cyclone, like I said, has that snap, but you've got to cut that off in order to attach it. So what I did is I took as close as I could to maximize the circumference of the lid all the way to the end of the snap. So I cut that out, and then I needed to cut a hole in the Gamma Seal lid. So the Gamma Seal lid kind of has a cross section. So you can't really see it on top, but from bottom you can kind of see what that looks like. So it's not a flat top. So it made it a little interesting for me to attach this. So I cut a hole through the middle in order to fit the Cyclone through. And then I used a lot of silicone to attach that lid to the top. A lot of black silicone kind of all the way around on the inside and the edges. And then I used bolts to attach it. And I think the bolts is really, really cool. It gives it this, like, you know, aircraft or machined look, which I'm a big fan of. But when I turn it over, you can see that the Cyclone kind of protrudes through. So that's the hole that we cut out. But another tricky part on the inside was you have these like 4 pizza-looking quadrants, right? Now, when I first attached it, everything from the top was airtight. There was no issue. But the unit would just whine and whine. I couldn't figure out what it was. But basically, air was rushing in to, I'm going to call it the pizza slice here. it would rush in and out on all 4 sections, and that was causing the noise. So I took some spray foam and I filled all 4 of the quadrants, or the pizza slices, and that gave me a really good airtight fit, because even when I went to change this, dust and debris was in there. It was whining, so that was kind of a nuisance. But now I feel this is really, really cool. Not the prettiest from the underside, but from the top it looks pretty cool. And it's easy. You know, once you empty out your bucket, you can just kind of screw it back on, and then you're back to work. All right, so the Cyclone itself, I had to use some electrical tape here for the vacuum piece to actually fit. And then on this side, let me roll this out of the way. You've got your vacuum hose, and it just doesn't work, right? And there's not a lot of connectors that are going to connect this to your vacuum hose. They're not the same size. So what I had to do is I had to 3D print a coupler that's going to fit on here and then allow for the vacuum hose to go in. Now, granted, I should probably cut this in size. It maybe is too big. But this was a world of difference in order for me to attach the two. And then at the very top, now I use the electrical tape, so this would kind of fit right on there. Now the hose that comes with the kit, the Bauer kit, is a really thin rubber kit, and I will end up replacing this because under pressure, it likes to kind of cave in on itself, kind of decompress. So I will be replacing that with some more of the rigid vacuum hose. I just haven't got to that part yet. But that's how you set it up. It's pretty easy. But now I've got all of my accessories on top. Everything's within reach. The whole thing is sturdy, which is the biggest thing for this. And now we can move on to the finish unit and talk through the last couple things. All right, now that we've got everything attached, we've got the top of the Cyclone going to the vacuum, and then we've got our hose that we'll use to clean up whatever it may be. I think for this, let me show you how it works. Let me get some dust out of my dust collector. I'll put it on the workbench. We'll suck it up, and then we'll check to see how much actually was caught in the Cyclone, in the bucket, and then go from there. All right, now that we've got our test done, we can open up the bucket and see how much was collected. As you can tell, the test itself, it sucked up everything with no issue. That was about a peanut butter jar worth of dust that I pulled out of my dust collector. So let's open up and see what we got. We've got the top of the Cyclone that connects to the vacuum. We've got our 3D printed part for the inlets. We'll quickly unscrew this, set this to the side, and I had to say maybe everything. I'm not exactly sure if you can see that. Probably a peanut butter jar worth of dust. I'm pretty happy with that. Things considered, that's actually pretty rad. So then we empty out our bucket, we put our lid back on, we get back to work. The goal was to be quick and easy with this project. We got it screwed on, we're nice and tight. We're hooked up to the vacuum, and then we're hooked up to whatever accessory we may be using. So I really hope you guys enjoyed watching me build this, or some of it. Obviously I did build a lot of this before the video. I don't know if I commented on this already, but I did paint it all black. I think it looks really, really cool. I've got a lot of black things in the shop as it is. And then it matches all the accessories for your vacuum. It contrasts the bright red with the Cyclone and bucket. It contrasts the orange and the rigid vacuum. But this is a super fun build. It does not take that long. I think I knocked this out. Besides painting, I probably knocked it out in about an hour and a half once you have everything that you need. Just a few cuts. I did, and for my project, I did go ahead and glue everything down. So I used PVC cement to cement everything in, except for obviously the bottom can still come out of the vacuum whenever I need to do maintenance on the vacuum. I need to change out, or maybe I need to suck up water. It is a wet, dry vac, so obviously I don't want to use this when I'm sucking up water. But then just to wheel it around, I'm going to take the top of the hose. I'll just kind of wrap it around the bucket, and then now I can go to my next project. I can spin this thing around. It rolls around the shop really easily. It can bang into things. It's made out of PVC and cheap wood. So I'm not worried about this thing getting damaged or scratched up, which I think is super imperative for a shop project. The only thing I think that I'm going to change, I still have the cord of the vacuum at the bottom, right? So you've got the handle that the cord wraps around, and I still have to get down there and unravel it. So I'm probably gonna put a piece here that I can wrap the cord around just to make it easier to do it all while standing. If this thing works and I keep emptying it, I probably won't have to go down to the actual vacuum itself, except to turn it on. And that I'm pretty happy with. Everything is accessible. It's at arm's reach or hand's reach. And that's exactly what you need for your shop. You wanna be fast, you wanna be efficient, and you want to enjoy it, right? The more efficient you are, the more you enjoy your project. So appreciate you guys watching me today. Hopefully this inspires you to build something similar or even better in your shop. And until next time, have a great day.